got an action-packed webinar today planned for you, and we're very, very excited from Niagara Connects to help be part of this. So my name is Sarah Webster. Nice to meet everybody. I do see some familiar names that have joined us today, and that's fantastic, and some new names as well. I'm one of the knowledge brokers with Niagara Connects. We've also got Mary Wiley on the phone, our Executive Director, and Sarah Bishop, our other knowledge broker, who will be providing some of the tech support today for our call. For those of you who haven't participated in a webinar like this before, the audio, as you can tell, is provided through the phone line. And then the visual for the slides is on your screen. So in your connection details, you'll have received both a web link as well as a phone number that you've called into. Please do make sure you click on that web link. There's a couple demographic questions that we do ask you to answer first before being popped into the online space. And that's just so that we can get a sense for how many people we're reaching, where you're coming from, so that we can best tailor these webinars and these opportunities in the future for you. The webinar is being recorded, both the audio and the visual, and we will make that available on the Niagara Knowledge Exchange as well as on our Niagara Connects website within the next week. And we'll provide a communication back out to you, letting you know when that's up there. And we encourage you to forward that on to other colleagues that may be interested in the topic but not able to join us here today. We do have all of the participant lines muted at this point, and that's just to help us cut down on some of the background noise that can happen, but also be able to let you and those that are joining, especially in small groups, have some of those conversations that naturally emerge through these type of knowledge exchange events. So for anyone that's new to the technology itself, you'll see the slides in the middle of your screen. Right now it's just an introduction slide with the webinar title on it. But those slides will change as the presenters go through their presentation. In addition, you've got down the left-hand side of your screen a chat pod. If during the presentation you have any questions that emerge, please feel free to use that chat pod to type in any questions on the left, and then we'll be able to address them throughout. We do have two set times where we will break for discussion. So we'll first hear from Paula Gardner, who is an assistant professor at Brock and a research affiliate at Bridgepoint Collaboratory for Research Innovation. And we'll hear from Paula giving us kind of a foundational understanding of what age-friendly means and what it looks like on a global scale and what's happening across the world. And then we'll hear from Dominic Ventresca, who is a co-chair with the Niagara Age-Friendly Community Network. And Dominic will talk to us a little bit about what's happening right now, what action has been taken in terms of taking that broad understanding of age-friendly communities and applying it within Niagara. So in between both presentations, we will take a break to answer some questions, and then as well we'll have some discussion period at the end. Other than that, I'm going to put myself on mute now and turn it over to Paula to get us started. Paula, take it away on your end.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Sarah. My goal today is to answer 3 questions about age-friendly cities. What are they? Why should we care? And what have we learned so far? But first, I think it's important that you know who I am and how and where I came to know what I know about this field. I'm a health researcher and a gerontologist, a member of an international research team examining social isolation among the elderly. I have hands-on policy experience working in the New York Age-Friendly Initiative, and I've sit on the expert panel with the Toronto Senior Strategy. I also have lots of degrees you can see there. Take your pick. All of which means to my mom that I haven't quite yet figured out what I want to be when I grow up. To be honest, however, although I've learned a great deal through all the education and research experiences, most of what I know that's really important or useful regarding this topic, I learned from my granny. This is my grandmother, Mrs. Brown, who is known in her community as Brownie. And she aged incredibly well, living this life filled with joy and meaning and dignity until 94. Brownie's experience of aging was amazing to me, and over the past 15 years, I've tried to unlock some of her secrets to that good old age, which has been a challenge because she broke every public health rule and she didn't fit any traditional model of successful aging. She lived on really limited resources. She became increasingly disabled in her later years, and she smoked like a chimney. But what I came to realize, and what I now understand is the golden key to Brownie's successful aging, is that she lived in an age-friendly community. At the root of age-friendly cities is the World Health Organization's reframing of that successful aging to something called active aging. And this was significant because it shifted our thinking to aging as a process rather than a product, and of optimizing opportunities, meaning there needs to be opportunities to take advantage of. And this is an approach that shifts us from healthy aging as solely an individual responsibility to something that we all need to be a part of. The Age-Friendly Cities Project was a global research initiative and included 35 countries from around the world. And using community forums and focus groups, project leaders from all of these countries asked older residents to reflect on their city. What are the age-friendly features of the city that they lived in, they asked. What problems do they encounter, and what's missing? Their answers highlighted that health and well-being for older adults is much more than just health and medical services. 8 domains of city life were identified as important, which of course scared the bejesus out of everyone, because what this means is that to do work in this area, we are going to have to talk to other people in other departments, in other fields, in other silos, as they often are. Yikes. Since then, this idea of age-friendly cities has been taken up in communities big and small around the world. So that today, age-friendly cities is really a movement. Fast-growing, interdisciplinary, and it's aimed at promoting communities that are great places to grow up and to grow old, where older people maintain a sense of purpose and belonging. We should all care about age-friendly communities because the evidence is pretty clear. Everyone benefits from living and working and playing in these places. Practicing age-friendliness is one of the most effective ways to promote active aging. People who live in accessible, friendly, supportive communities are more likely to maintain their independence, have access to the community supports and services that they require, and are less vulnerable to illness, depression, and injury. Families living in age-friendly communities benefit from knowing that their loved ones are supported to age in place, and that they themselves, as cyclists, parents with children and strollers, park and public transportation users, all benefit from healthy aging initiatives. Age-friendly cities have high levels of social cohesion and social connectedness, which we know enhances citizenship and leads to a community that recognizes, appreciates, and values the contributions made by different members of the community and engages them in all aspects of community life. Mayor Bloomberg has been a huge supporter and partner in the Age-Friendly New York City project. Both the mayoral office and city council in New York recognized early on that designing and delivering public services in age-friendly ways can lead to improved use of tax dollars. Age-friendly is good for business. Age-friendly businesses create opportunities for owners and provide more attractive employment opportunities for mature workers. older consumers across the continuum of income, from those living on very limited resources all the way to those who have more disposable income, benefit from more comfortable and respectful shopping experiences. My lessons learned in this area come from working as a policy analyst on the Age-Friendly New York City project, engaging with the gerontologists from around the world who are also grappling with similar issues, although in different ways, participating in the Toronto Senior Strategy, and having my students partner with seniors to examine the age-friendliness of the neighborhoods that they share. For example, in New York, I had my undergraduates interview and work with seniors who lived in their neighborhoods, and together they examined their neighborhoods to look at what was age-friendly about them and what wasn't, and put together a slideshow which they showed to city officials and which actually influenced some changes in these neighborhoods. From these experiences, I have 4 lessons learned. First of all, we've learned that to be effective, we need to go small with age-friendly. The World Health Organization report was very global. Since then, cities like New York have continued the work. But what happened in New York is that we learned that often it's at the local neighborhood level where we see the greatest opportunities for implementing change. For example, it became very clear that what seniors needed in East Harlem was very, very different from those living in the Upper West Side. Secondly, in order to get anything done, it's absolutely critical that we get out of our individual silos and work across sectors. There are 8 different domains. For example, social services in New York identified food deserts as a problem for seniors in Harlem. These are places where there are no grocery stores close to older adults, so we call them food deserts. They were sitting around a table, again, across sectors, and it was education that stepped up to help solve the problem. They offered their school buses, which are often sitting in these neighborhoods, sitting idle for most of the day, and they offered these to transport these older adults in food deserts to grocery stores on weekdays. I can't stress enough the effectiveness of intergenerational programming on breaking down age-based stereotypes. To change the culture around aging, we need to stop age segregating our citizens and ensure there are places and programs where people of all ages can live, work, and have fun. Everyone benefits from an age-inclusive society, and this is one of the critical components of age-friendly communities. For those who listened to the CBC reports this week, you heard about the rising rates of suicide among seniors. It's clear that we do not spend nearly enough time thinking about and working in the area of protecting the mental health of older people. And this includes a range of issues: social isolation, depression, self-esteem, autonomy, quality of life, loneliness. I think in this area we can help to make the difference between just being alive and living. It's easier to identify sometimes what we need to do. So I'll end today by identifying some strategies for what we maybe can do. For policymakers, we can begin by assessing the age-friendliness of all of our government policies and programs. And this is one of the things that happened in New York. Mayor Bloomberg asked all of his departments to go through all of their policies and programs with this age-friendly lens. We can remind people in Niagara the assets, strengths, opportunities, and resilience of our older residents, and we can break down those silos to work across sectors. Those of us who are researchers, we have work to do. We have to engage users at the outset. We have to work in interdisciplinary teams. The work has to be applied, and we have to look for cost-effective, simple solutions. Businesses have a huge role to play in this, both in promoting and in benefiting from age-friendly practices. In New York, we had a competition that businesses funded to look at something we called the perch, which was, there's a lot of places where older adults feel that they would like to have benches or other places to sit, that there's long distances, especially when you think of a place like New York. And so they came up with, the seniors came up with this idea of a perch, and businesses funded this competition. We need to develop age-friendly employment policies. We know in the Niagara region people are living in poverty and a low income and need to keep working. We can do a lot as employers in terms of flexible hours and mentoring programs and graduated retirement policies. And finally, we can design and recognize and build age-friendly businesses. Again, New York, the Apple Store started opening their stores super early in the morning to allow seniors to come in to not only purchase Apple equipment, but to take workshops in an age-friendly and age-safe space. Community organizations are encouraged to conduct needs assessments and asset mapping at that individual neighborhood level, ensure that their services are accessible, and meet the needs of current older residents. We know that boomers are changing the face of aging and thinking about what aging looks like now, not 5 years ago or 10 years ago. In healthcare, we have a lot of work to do also. We need to put more efforts into a health promotion approach that's proactive, invest in rehabilitation. Older adults didn't used to live as long as they did before. Now we're getting hip replacements and knee surgeries, and rehabilitation, I think, needs a lot more of our efforts and time. Look at people-centered care and train and educate people who work in healthcare in ways that demystify aging and challenge those stereotypes. Age-friendly cities are just friendly cities, and we all benefit from living in them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paula. That was fantastic. The funny thing is, as you were talking, and I've seen your slides ahead of time, I loved your concrete examples of the Apple Store and the Perch Project. Those type of examples of how it does look different in every community, and how we approach this is going to look different if we focus on tailoring it to each neighborhood and the needs of that community. So that was great. I'd like to pause here before we welcome Dominic to speak specifically about Niagara and ask if anyone has any questions for Paula. Given certainly her wealth of expertise and knowledge on this topic, I encourage you, here's the time to pick that brain there. So you can either ask questions by pressing *7 and unmuting your individual phone line, or by typing any questions into the chat pod in the bottom left there. So I'll just take a pause for a minute and allow any of those questions to come through.
Hello, I have a question.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary Wiley here. Paula, that was a great presentation. I am just wondering, just a week ago, we were part of a forum that was put on here in Niagara, the Niagara Community Foundation and the YMCA of Niagara, focusing on Generation Flux report that Community Foundations of Canada put out, and it was focusing on youth issues. And one of the issues that came up was mentoring opportunities for that intergenerational exchange that you, of the wealth of wisdom, both young people exchanging with older adults and vice versa. So I just wondered if you had any more specific examples of that kind of activity from any of the work that you've done on age-friendly.
One of the things that I can do after we've finished here is I've generated a lot of resources, and which I'm happy to share. And in one of those, it was on the slide that I put up. Again, the City of New York, through the Department for the Aging, put together a huge report listing what they think are best practices and great ideas for promoting intergenerational programming in places. So there's a lot of examples in there. A couple of the ones that I was a part of is there's an organization in New York called Older Adults Technology Services, and we know technology and computers is one area where youth feel that they have more experience and expertise, maybe in some cases, than older adults. And so being a part of that program where youth are actually the mentors for older adults, that was just an amazing experience to watch. Both groups learn so much from those experiences. We also talked to all of the universities in New York City to ask them to continue to offer and open up their policies for allowing older adults to come onto campus, not only to take courses, but for example, when historians, the history department at Columbia was like, they're talking about things, you know, the First and Second World War, etc., and there are actual people who can come in and speak to that directly, and those kinds of things are just so enriching, of course, for the students, and a great opportunity to actually ask somebody who actually lived through those. So there's two examples.
That's great. That's helpful.
We have a follow-up question here related to some resources that Deb has asked. Wondering if there's any resources, Paula, that are accessible for those who are looking at integrating graduated retirement into their agencies. Do you have anything like that you could recommend or perhaps follow up with after and share with us?
Maybe I can follow up afterwards. Because I was in New York for 5 years and only recently coming back to Ontario, then where of course retirement policies are completely different. I do know at the University of Toronto we've got a policy where there's a 3-year retirement, sort of a phased out, which I think is a great model. Who wants to go cold turkey on this? Most people don't, right? So I know that there are some policies in place in different sectors, but I'll be happy to look up, you know, and share some other resources as I find them. But at this point, maybe there's some of the listeners probably know more than I do about this.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, Paula, that what we'll do is when we send out the connection or the link for the recording afterwards, we'll also provide a link in there to additional resources. So Paula, you've mentioned some that you have, and you and I can connect later about those, but certainly if anyone else on the phone, if you have any age-friendly related resources that you'd like to share with others, please do send them along. We'll put up Bishop can maybe put up her email in the chat there, and we encourage you to send them to her, and then we'll get them not only shared on the Niagara Knowledge Exchange, but also get them sent out and highlighted for everyone else. So I have a question here from Kelly asking Paula, and where you see strengths or weaknesses currently in the Niagara region. I know that Dominic is going to talk next about what's happening in Niagara, but I know that you've also talked about you're kind of coming into this region a bit new. So you're bringing that global knowledge and knowledge from New York and other cities. But given that, and given your perspective, where do you see some strengths and weaknesses currently in Niagara, specifically around strategies that you know about that are being implemented, or strategies maybe not yet, or issues or needs not yet addressed?
The fact you have a Niagara age-friendly community and Niagara Connects is a great start, and it shows there's already passion and that the movement is already beginning. That's like for sure one of your huge strengths. I think that I see, again, as a new person to the region, I'm really excited to be here and want to learn more and connect with more groups here, but that I see that, as I mentioned in my presentation, it's important that we work across sectors, that I see that there's interest, for example, from Niagara Public Health, from other organizations, government, and individuals, that, again, that's essential to getting anything done. I'm a new faculty at Brock, and I was just previously at the University of Toronto and working at as a research scientist here at Bridgepoint Health. And people asked, why are you interested in a job at Brock and in this Niagara region? I'm telling you, you're my living lab. I mean, we know it's like, if not the top area for older adults per capita, it's one of the highest in the country, and that's a huge draw for me. And so I think getting things done in a region like Niagara are possible, and as from a research perspective, testing them, there's lots of opportunity.
Fantastic. And speaking of those intergenerational opportunities, Carol asks if you know of any programs, maybe not specifically in Niagara, but within Niagara or outside of Niagara, to reach elementary school students.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of projects going on in Toronto we sort of do this informally, invite older adults into classrooms, either to help students with reading is one of the areas that's sort of been highlighted in the past, but also, again, to share their experiences. For example, if you're doing a talk and, on something that an older adult probably might have some expertise in, why not bring somebody in to actually speak about it rather than read about a textbook or even watch a film about it? So I think I'm not aware of any formal programs in the Niagara region, but I think that I could probably help identify some that make sense for elementary schools. I used to be an elementary school teacher. I taught grade 5 actually on the London School Board back in the day, and I think anything we can do to mix those communities of younger people and older adults will do so much to enrich the educational experience of students and enhance the life of older adults, and that is going to follow through with both those groups across the life course.
Wonderful, and you really are the jack of all trades, Paula. And I certainly invite anyone within the Niagara region, if you know of any programs targeting elementary school children, to please share those back as well, and you can do so either verbally or through the chat pod. I have a question here from James, and James says, I provide a service for long-term care in Niagara Falls. Over the last 10 years, residents are being admitted to facilities where they're more frail and less cognitive states. This makes it difficult for staff to communicate and provide services. I know the policy is that we stay at home as long as possible, but how do we deal with this change?
Mm-hmm. So it's a really great question, James, and something that we are struggling with. It didn't used to happen in the past, of course. We got to a certain age and we died. There's two things, and I think sometimes we romanticize aging in place, and I think we have to be really careful about that. Sometimes people are aging in place simply because they have nowhere else to go, or the resources, not enough resources to actually leave. But the aging in place is not supported, and it can sometimes be not the best place for people to grow old. Two things I'd like to see in the future, and we're starting to see this, is movement around. There's got to be something that's between what we offer in terms of aging in place support and going to a long-term care facility. So different kinds of housing, different kinds of supportive housing to open up opportunities that can address the range of issues we have to deal with. One of the most exciting projects, which the Alzheimer's Society in Toronto is part of, is the iPod project. I don't know if you've heard about it. There's a great documentary out now that's talking about using music as a way to engage people with dementia, and I'm telling you, it's absolutely incredible to watch. So these are older adults who may not have communicated for years, and simply by finding out a little bit about their musical interests, based on maybe even where they were in the past and where they grew up or where they worked, allowing them to listen to music through an iPod not only brings them out of, temporarily at least, that state where they're non-communicative, but after they remove the music, they're able to answer questions about their lives, and it's just incredibly powerful. So I think we're also getting better about how to keep people engaged and alive when they're at those later stages.
Wonderful, thank you. And I've just put a link up there if anyone's interested in learning more about that project. I encourage you to go to the Alzheimer's Toronto website. We'll take one more question here, and then we'll hold. We do have lots that have been coming in, but we'll then hold and we'll hear from Dominic and then come back. But as the last question, Livia asks, how do you address stereotyping of viewing the aged as debilitated versus healthy and active? And I know that this is something we've all been struggling with over the years. So, Paula, what are some of your recommendations there?
It's a tricky one. I mean, we're invincible when we're young. Again, I'm just going to come back to that intergenerational. Changing the culture is like really, really difficult. But all of the experiences that I've been in that merge these two groups, there's learning on both, like from both ends, and it transcends the actual meeting to when they meet each other later in wherever experiences they are, that they see each other differently and really kind of become empathetic or understanding about that. So I think promoting those intergenerational experiences, and around disability specifically, that's something that I've been working on here at Bridgepoint, because it's a rehabilitation hospital and there's lots of older adults who are transitioning into mobility devices for the first time, and it's tricky. We lose our identity when that happens. We want people to see us beyond our mobility device. And so I've got a big program of research that's looking at this that I'm happy to talk about at another time. But one of the things we find is actually I bring engineering students from the University of Toronto, and I actually have them get in wheelchairs and experience what it's like to try and negotiate environments and how people interact and talk with you. And in my gerontology courses, you know, we do things so that as much as possible I can have students understand the experience of what it's like when our bodies age. And so we do things like, fog out goggles. And, it's not perfect, but it gives great insight into at least some of the challenges that people are facing. And so I think there's lots of things we can do, but I agree that's a really, really tricky one, Livia.
Great, thanks. I'm going to pause us on questions here just to be respectful of time. There's lots coming in, and I know that we will have a lot of discussion after Dominic's presentation as well. So let's take this and narrow the focus a little bit more onto Niagara and onto what's happening in Niagara. So I'll turn it over now to you, Dominic, to take us through your presentation and talk to us a little bit more on that topic.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And I think I just need to get the slides up here, right, for my presentation. Here we go. Well, first of all, I too enjoyed Paula's presentation and her broad knowledge of and experience with age-friendly communities internationally. And in her answer to the question about strengths and weaknesses for age-friendly issues in Niagara, I'd like to add a strength that she didn't, and that's having her here now at Brock. That was a day that when I learned that, I celebrated, and hearing her presentation today for the first time, I think there's great things ahead of us for that. I also want to mention briefly that it's been a pleasure working with Sarah and Niagara Connects in working on this webinar, and I hope that all the participants will enjoy that. What my role is to this webinar presentation is to add to the local perspective to the discussion. Based on my experience in co-chairing the Niagara Age-Friendly Community Network, also my 36 years of experience in Niagara, working with Niagara Region and their senior services. Also, I have had experience provincially in various boards related to this field, like the Ontario Gerontology Association. But somewhat like Paula, I have had a lifelong interest in gerontology, learning from within my own family context, but also my graduate studies in gerontology at the University of Toronto. So I just want to say also before I start that Paula has shared with us some good background information, how the age-friendly movement is taking shape globally. And now I'll take you through a few slides that will show you how this global movement has been infused into the Niagara region, talking a little bit about first the history of some of the formal work being done around age-friendly, the achievements to date of our group, pardon me, and the current status of the age-friendly movement in its current iteration as a age-friendly community network, our next steps, and lastly, and perhaps more importantly, how you get involved in participating in this. So first of all, a formal project was launched in 2010. It was a 3-year project funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and its main purpose was to raise awareness in the community of some of the elements that Paula has already covered, age-friendly community principles, and how we might implement them and generate action within local communities. We brought together a group of Niagara citizens and had their input facilitated, and they came up with a vision and mission that guided our 3-year project, the vision being a caring Niagara community for all ages. Emphasis is on all ages. That optimizes opportunities for an enhanced quality of life as people age. The mission was to raise awareness of age-friendly principles across all sectors. This emphasizes the interdisciplinary aspect that Paula emphasized. All sectors of our community with a particular focus on older adults. And I also want to talk about, or at least reference the sectors, the Living in Niagara report put together by Niagara Connects references numerous sectors. So age-friendly traverses all those, transcends all those sectors. And in terms of partners, there were a group of people that came together, and that's another strength, I think, in Niagara is our tendency towards collaboration on many complex issues. A group of partners came together to apply for a Trillium grant. We received about $225,000 to fund our project over 3 years. This group of partners also served as the management committee. We had a couple of coordinators, Deb Rollo and Virginia Stewart, to manage the project over that 3 years. But the partners who oversaw it were the Rose City Seniors Foundation, Niagara Connects, City of Welland, the City of Welland's Seniors Advisory Committee, and also the Niagara region. The project achieved a number of things. I'm only going to highlight a few things here, kind of high level. We were able to mobilize citizens at each local community, and Paul emphasized the importance of work done at community or neighborhood level, because there isn't a such thing as one size fits all on this issue. It depends on what local priorities are. So we definitely worked within the local communities or neighborhoods within the 12 area municipalities that make up Niagara. We addressed all of the 12 local municipal councils, asking them to receive our information on age-friendly principles and how they might be applied within a municipal context, applying an age-friendly lens to their day-to-day operations. We identified Welland as a pilot community to serve as a role model for our other cities and communities across Niagara, and they fulfilled this role in an exemplary way. For example, and Paula showed the list of Canadian cities that are members of the World Health Organization Age-Friendly Cities Network. Well, Welland can be added to that now because they have formally applied, and there's a couple of other cities in Niagara that are pursuing that action. Also, at the municipal level, the City Council accepted the advice of the Seniors Advisory Committee to their council on issues such as increasing the font on road signs as they remove them or they replace them, and also to add park benches and washrooms along the Niagara, or at least the Welland Canal Parkway, which of course would benefit older adults, but parents with children and so on. We held focus groups across Niagara, bringing local citizens together within each of the neighborhoods and communities to learn about what their local issues are and what their priorities for improvement towards an age-friendly community might be. We also held yearly information forums where we invited people from across Niagara to come together to learn about age-friendly development, share best practices from their local communities, and to inform our future initiatives. And lastly, we aligned with and harnessed the local mandated accessibility initiatives. Municipalities are all mandated to improve on their accessibility initiatives for citizens requiring same, and we were able to complement that and ensure that the two initiatives worked hand in hand.
Dominic, it's Sarah here. Sorry to interrupt you. We're getting a little bit of feedback on the phone. Are you on speakerphone right now?
Yes, I am.
Is it possible for you to go back to a handset?
Yeah, how's that?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Recording to not be able to pick you up. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So the formal initiative that was funded by Trillium is over, but we've transitioned to a age-friendly community network, and the network is a diverse group of people from across Niagara who are interested in continuing this age-friendly journey. They have an interest in learning from each other, sharing local successes, and we're developing as a work in progress vehicles to enable that, be it newsletters, emails, social media, member forums, etc. In fact, we're working closely with Niagara Connects to help us with that. We have over 100 members to date, and hopefully after today we may have more. There is an executive group, a leadership council, that is a diverse group of people across Niagara that includes some older adults who volunteer and also some staff from municipalities, our local university, our research and planning body, and also one of the community health centers. I co-chair that along with Kathy Fusco. Formerly Henry O'Keefe was the co-chair along with me, and members include, and you'll recognize some of these names, Gail Hillier, Barbara Hopkins, Lynn McCleary, Coletta McGrath, Richard Morwold, Doug Rappeljay, Kirk Weaver, Mary Wiley, and Harriet Warden. So it is a work in progress. It is a journey. We are continuing to solicit input from the community on building supportive physical and social environments for all ages. That was how today's webinar was built. We are reaching out to you today for additional ideas, and some came up earlier, be it around need for more information on the transition towards retirement for employers, or the issue around elementary school programs involving the generations. There are some vacuums, there are some gaps within the network of potential services, and certainly people can help fill those gaps with their ideas. So we're always looking for ideas and initiatives. Most recently, one of the new initiatives, this is kind of hot off the press, we've approached Leadership Niagara, and they will be working with local schools to build and for businesses to install ramps for their enterprises to enhance their accessibility to all citizens. We hope to, or we have already applied for additional funding from Trillium to assist us with the goal of developing a community-driven aging strategy and action plan similar to the success in Brant and Brantford. And these, we will engage businesses, nonprofits, and governments to develop a Niagara aging strategy and action plan with the hopes that these organizations will apply that plan when they are doing their own strategic, operational, and business planning with a collective goal and an individual goal of better serving the needs of older adults as their clients or as their customers, whatever. And lastly, and as I said earlier, perhaps most importantly, how can you contribute to this movement? Well, you could be a local age-friendly community champion. That may mean learning more, as you are today, about age-friendly principles and what actions you can take, how they can be implemented in Niagara. You could share these principles and ideas with your colleagues, your friends, your family. You can apply them in your own community groups, whether it be a social club, a church group, a business workplace. Each of your individual small changes will add up and make a big difference when you add them all up across our region. You can also check out the Niagara Connects website for age-friendly news, including the age-friendly blog and other links to age-friendly information. A great wealth of information for contacts for you to follow up, and I say here you can contribute other ideas. As I mentioned earlier, there are certain areas that we perhaps haven't thought of. We don't have a monopoly on all the possibilities, but as local citizens, you may prioritize certain elements of age-friendly developments and promote their implementation. So we need your input. And lastly, you can join the Niagara Age-Friendly Community Network and possibly be a member of the executive. And I've given you the link for that. So that concludes what I have to say, and we're open to questions, comments, and I've given you some further contact information there should you want to reach me personally or deliver a message to the Age-Friendly email there that will connect you with the Leadership Council.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dominic. We do have some questions that have already come in that we'll address, and then I do encourage people, please do either unmute your phone line by pressing *7 to verbally ask a question, or else, of course, type any questions or comments into the chat pod. We had Linda had asked or commented that she comes from a seniors club from Port Colborne and is wondering if Port Colborne participates in this project.
We have addressed the answer is yes. We have addressed the City Council, and their council has been receptive and is pursuing the Age-Friendly Cities Network membership with the World Health Organization, and also with the seniors group on Fielding Avenue. We have approached them, and again, it's a work in progress. The ideal would be to identify some local champions who will embrace this movement and organize a local action committee, and then identify local priorities and begin working at them one step at a time, using the Age-Friendly Community Network as perhaps as a reinforcing body, as a guiding body, but the action has to take place at the community, neighborhood, local level.
Wonderful. So certainly, Linda, if you or your colleagues are interested in participating as an age-friendly champion, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to Dominic personally. Is that fair enough, Dominic, to say?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Jim had asked, do you have any suggestion on how our communities can measure the impact of age-friendly initiatives to determine whether we continue supporting them or move on to another initiative? And I would probably add to that both across the board with all of age-friendly initiatives, but also deciding which specific age-friendly initiatives are having the most impact.
Mm-hmm. Well, evaluation is always a challenge. Having to establish a baseline for age-friendliness with all its multiple dimensions would be a challenge. Paula may have some ideas on how that can, how that can be achieved. But as a start, our age-friendly community initiative established an assessment, a self-assessment tool, which we have available and make available to anyone interested. And it's done on, well, it can be done on several planes. It can be done on a personal plane, it can be done on an organizational plane, and perhaps on a community plane. But it's a start, and it assesses for degrees of knowledge about information related to age-friendly, personal and social system connectedness, the degree to which an enabling environment is provided. So it's a start, but I don't think we have anything yet formal, as perhaps Jim is suggesting.
And Dominic, is that age-friendly self-assessment, is that something that we can add as a resource to the Niagara Knowledge Exchange?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
We can get to
but do you have any further comments around evaluating these type of initiatives?
I think it's a great question, and I think that it's critical to the sustainability of age-friendly initiatives. If we aren't tracking what's happening and evaluating it, it's really hard to then go back and, in some cases, ask for more resources or even to keep the momentum going. So I think we have to have some wins and be able to show those really clearly. So I think a comprehensive evaluation plan is something that needs to get in place as quickly as possible. It can grow after that, but at least as a starting place. And the indicators to track come very much, again, from the individual sectors that are interested and that are participating in this. So, for example, businesses, we could track how many, again, in a couple of the cities that I was working with other gerontologists, they were looking at a set of criteria for businesses to be able to then identify themselves as an age-friendly business. which at some point becomes very appealing when we're looking at where to spend our dollars as consumers, supporting something like an age-friendly business. And some of the criteria was around their employment policies, and others were around what they provide in these locations. For example, an accessible bathroom, a place to sit, a phone call if needed. And then it was a matter of just counting how many age-friendly businesses we were starting with, and then how many we added later. Businesses, of course, will also be interested in increases in sales once they become an age-friendly business, which is definitely trackable. We can count, governments may be interested in tracking how many of their programs are age-friendly to start with through that assessment tool, and how many increase with the initiatives that we have. So I think it's something that we should start as soon as possible, and I think you can, my mantra is always flourishing at a reasonable pace. We don't have to do it all at once, but talk to the people who are involved in this and say, what's most important for you, and what do you need us to track, or what you need support tracking, so that we can continue to sustain programs and policies that we might implement.
If I could add to that, with the application that we've made to Trillium for this next leg of the journey, that is the preparation of a aging strategy and action plan, we've built in some evaluation criteria there, including the number of agencies, organizations, whatever, that come to the planning committees, and then of those, the percentage that take on and commit to applying the ultimate plan to their businesses or to their enterprises. So that's one example, but what I've noted is the need for increased focus on evaluation, and that's a valuable input for our network receiving from today's webinar participants. I appreciate that.
Hello.
Hi there.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Do you have a question for us as well?
Yeah, my name is Henry O'Keefe. I'm the chair of the Welland Local Action Committee of the Age Friendly Initiative. And I just, at this point, I thought you might be interested to know that we are in the process working with the Welland Pelham Chamber of Commerce, and we have produced a booklet that describes how a business can become age-friendly, how to get started at doing it, what other businesses have done, and a self-assessment as well. Once we get the blessing of the Welland Pelham Chamber, our intention is to produce several copies of our booklet, hold a seminar with the local businesses through the Chamber of Commerce, instructing them on how to become more age-friendly, telling them the benefits have become to their bottom line in becoming age-friendly. So this is a project that we have had on the go for several months now, and hope to be bringing it to fruition within the next month or two.
Henry, that's awesome.
Henry, I'm just posting an email address in the chat pod there, and I encourage, please, yourself and any other groups that are working on these type of initiatives, if you have resources or specific projects that you'd like highlighted on the Niagara Knowledge Exchange, please do email Sarah, my colleague, who's also on this call today, and we'll make sure to get them up there. There's so much rich information out there that I think this is a great way to start kind of curating it. And I think, Mary, you wanted to add a final thought on the evaluation before we moved on?
Yeah, just wanted to mention that Niagara Connects was involved in the Age-Friendly Community Initiative from the beginning, and the evaluation plan was intentionally sort of set up from the beginning when the application went into the Trillium Foundation. And we've done the same, as Dominic said, with the application that's gone in for the senior strategy. And so the idea there being that, yes, it's a great idea to set that up from the beginning so that the evaluation framework guides the project. And I would say that the Living in Niagara report is actually a tool as well that can help the community, the Niagara-wide community, to monitor and provide feedback on how Age Friendly is doing. It's a wonderful tool. We're actually working on the third Living in Niagara report right now. The research process is ongoing. So I would say that there was a fair bit of mention of age-friendly issues in the 2011 Living in Niagara report, and I would say that with the advent of the Niagara Knowledge Exchange and now the work, how it dovetails with the Living in Niagara report product, that we'll have an even richer set of information to gauge our progress. And so I think all of that can work together really well to give us a more clear picture as we go along to gauge. And just so you know, the age-friendly initiative and all the age-friendly information, where it's housed, the sector within the Living in Niagara report and the Knowledge Exchange, where it's housed is the belonging, volunteering, giving, and leadership sector. Of course, it crosses over health and wellness and other sectors as well, but that's where it's primarily housed.
Mary, awesome. You don't need me.
Oh, yes, we do. We have plans for you.
Wonderful. So you'll see also on your screen that Sarah has brought up our first evaluation question. We do have 4 standard questions that we ask just to make sure that we're continuing to tailor these events to meet your needs in the community. So you'll see your screen switch kind of over the next couple minutes. Please do help us by answering each of the questions that come up. And in the meantime, we'll take maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So I see that Karen has asked here a great question. Has the provincial government been supportive of the Age Friendly initiative, or is this only supported more at the municipal or regional level? And I put that to Paula or Dominic or anyone else on the phone who might be able to comment.
Well, I could start. It's Dominic here. The province has the senior secretariat, which provides kind of high-level guidance on developing age-friendly communities. But much like we learned from Paula, the action really takes place at local levels, community, or at least municipal and neighborhood levels. So in Niagara, it's the Niagara region and some of the local municipalities that have taken an interest. Other provinces, like the city or like the province of British Columbia, I think are well ahead. In fact, that's where we picked up some of the business assessment, self-assessment, and that's what we, as a network, we assisted the local action committee in Welland to develop, and then they took it on and went with.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I lost you there for a sec. Yeah, I agree with Dominic and see that support. You know, again, some of the experience that I've had is like, Paul, once we start to really get things moving and see some real positive, then all the politicians will offer their support in much bigger ways. But they're lending their support and sort of waiting to see what happens at a municipal level often. But it's great to have as a start, or at least as a thought.
Wonderful. This is an interesting comment from Sarah Sweeney. We have so many Sarahs on the phone today. Sarah shares that we find that many of our seniors don't care for the title of senior. Mm-hmm. And we've been discussing what name our club could take on that might be more appealing or inclusive of the 55-plus population. Just curious if anyone on this call has a suggestion. That's really interesting. And I maybe put that out that to anyone to either post something in the chat pod or share on the phone, but just also something for us to think about, too, going forward about the language that we use and how inclusive it is.
You notice in most of my presentation I use the term older adults, and that question is that there's so much baggage in language, and for whatever reason, that label, quote, of senior is, some people seem to embrace it and others reject it. And I agree, it would be fun to have a big brainstorming session to think about, alternative terms.
Like Paula, I've used older adult more frequently than seniors because of that, feedback we've received from a lot of older adults, and also I know from what used to be the Ontario Seniors Games, for example, is now the Ontario 55 Plus Games. So again, there's this realization that the kind of old stereotype of seniors being frail and unable to do things and so on is something that we need to dispense with. And so people, I think, are saying let's lose the term seniors, and maybe that'll help promote a more more positive active aging kind of notion.
Wonderful. So I see that, unfortunately, actually, it is already 1 o'clock. This topic is certainly not a conversation that ends here, and thank you to Dominic and Paula for talking to us about ways that we can take this information and probably apply changes in our day-to-day life as age-friendly champions, but also how we can continue the conversation going forward. I do see there are questions that we weren't even able to get to today, and I'd like to invite Paula and Dominic that if you're comfortable with this, if I could follow up with you afterwards, perhaps we can work to craft some answers to those questions that can be shared back out in the communication and back out to participants.
Sure.
Yep, sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you to all the participants today for joining us, taking an hour, probably an hour of your lunch time to sit here and participate in this conversation. It's an important topic, and it's great to see Niagara taking such leadership in this area. So please do check out, we'll put up some links for right now where you can check out some resources online. If you are interested in participating in more events like this and you're not already part of our Niagara Connects distribution list, we'll put up the link for the Niagara Knowledge Exchange, and at the bottom of that website you'll see a form that you can fill out. Please do so, and by doing that you'll then receive direct invitations to events like this that we're hosting in the future, as well as our monthly e-newsletter, which highlights new content, resources, projects, events, that kind of thing that have been added to the Niagara Knowledge Exchange, as well as through that newsletter we talk about the different work that Niagara Connects is doing across the region. So other than that, thank you very much, and you will receive a communication within about a week with a link to a recording of this presentation, which will include the slides as well, and any other resources that we've talked about today. So thank you, everyone, and thank you again to our presenters. Great presentation.